Hello, Miss Ditto's Geometry classes. I'm sorry I'm not here today, but we are going to review what you did yesterday as well as go over the topic for today. So I'm going to ask the substitute to pause the video and give you a chance to make sure that you have your topics packet out as well as your assignment that you received yesterday. Assignment 4-1, it'll say that in the top right corner. You will need to turn to the topic 4-1, so that means skip the bell work page and go to the very beginning of topic 4-1. We're going to go through just review that first topic, and you will also need a highlighter from the bucket. You're going to use this highlighter when we go over the assignment. So at this time, I'll give the sub a chance to pause the video so you can make sure you have this. Okay, you should have topic 4-1. I want you to turn to topic 4-1, and we're just going to go over the things that you did yesterday, but I want to make sure that you have this information down before we move on. Before we get started, I want to remind you, this is the calendar of what's coming up in the next week. You just took your test, test 3. Notice there is no school on Monday for you all. You will not be at school. And also on Wednesday is the PSAT day. And so sophomores and juniors, you'll be taking the practice SAT test. Our classes will be 15 minutes long, and during that time we'll go over the most missed test number 3 questions. So that will be time in class to go over the test questions. That'll probably be the same time that we will do test corrections. So those of you who have not taken that test 3, you should have it taken care of by the 16th. All right, turn to topic 4-1 in your topics packet. This is what we covered yesterday. It had to do with parallel lines. So parallel lines, remember, are lines that never intersect. The lines that I have shown here are parallel. What was new to y'all yesterday was a transversal. A transversal is a line that intersects at least 2 other lines. These lines are usually parallel. Yesterday we only dealing with parallel lines and the transversal itself. So the transversal, again, is any line that intersects 2 other lines. So the transversal line is drawn there. I could also draw a transversal that has a negative slope. Again, it's a line that intersects 2 lines. So on topic 4-1, the first angle pairs we dealt with were alternate interior angles. And so alternate interior angles, I'm going to label this transversal. The transversal is the line that cuts between or touches the 2 other lines. So I'm highlighting it here. That's my line T, and I label it with T. Alternate interior. Interior means they are inside the parallel lines that we had. So here are the parallel lines. Inside there. Alternate meaning they are on alternate or opposite sides of the transversal itself. So angle 3 and angle 6 are on opposite sides of the transversal, but they are inside our 2 parallel lines. Angle 4 and angle 5 are on alternate sides of the transversal, but they are inside our parallel lines, and therefore they are alternate interior angles. The other thing we said was these alternate interior angles are congruent. So angle 3 is congruent to angle 6, and angle 4 is congruent to angle 5. We also talked about alternate exterior angles. So if my transversal is the one line that intersects those 2 parallel lines, I'm going to label it the letter T. This time we're talking about exterior angles. That means I'm looking for the angles that are outside of my 2 parallel lines. So alternate means they're on opposite sides of the transversal, like angle 1 and angle 8, and they are also outside of my parallel lines. So angle 1 and 8 are exterior angles, and angle 2 and angle 7 are alternate exterior angles. These angles are also congruent. So angle 1 is congruent to angle 8, and angle 2 is congruent to angle 7. That's all the information on your first page. Flip to your second page, and we're talking about same side interior angles and same side exterior. So let's think about this. same side means it's on the same side of the transversal. So here's my transversal I'm highlighting. Again, it's the line that intersects the other two. And I'm going to label it with the T to say that's my transversal. Same side of the transversal. Notice 3 and 5 are on the same side. And again, we're looking for the interior, so I'm looking for what's inside my two parallel lines. So the inside of the two parallel lines and on the same side, we have 5 and 3, and we also have 6 and 4. Now the thing we know about same side interior angles is that they are supplementary. So a nice thing to think of is same side supplementary. Have to have the S's to be supplementary. Supplementary means if I add up their measures, measure of angle 3 plus measure of angle 5, they have to be 180 degrees. Angle 4, measure of angle 4, and the measure of angle 6 added together will give me 180 degrees. So again, same side interiors are supplementary. Remember those S's. Let's look at same side exterior. Again, we have our transversal. I'm highlighting it. Label it with the T. There's my transversal. Then we're looking at the same side of the transversal. So 1 and 7 are on the same side. And this time we are looking for exterior angles. So they have to be outside of the two parallel lines. So outside is the 1 and 7. They're on the same side. And so again, SSS tells you same side exteriors are supplementary. So measure 1, measure angle 7, add it together, should add up to 180. And the measure of angle 2 and measure angle 8 are also going to add up to 180. The next set of angles that we looked at were corresponding angles. So when you look at corresponding angles, again, let's look at our transversal. I'm highlighting my transversal. If you have your highlighter out, it's an awesome thing to do. Highlight your transversal, label it T. Score corresponding angles, they are congruent, okay, and they are formed when the transversal intersects the parallel lines. That's what we have, parallel lines, transversal. Corresponding means they are in the same location with respect to the parallel line and the transversal itself. So we saw a video yesterday. It talked about if I look at angle 1, angle 1 is on the left side of the transversal, but it is above the parallel line. So I'm going to look for another angle that's on the left side of the transversal and it's also above my parallel line. So angle 1 and angle 5 are corresponding angles. Another way that you can think about this, we just covered same side interior and same side exterior. If you have two angles that are on the same side, let's look at angle 4 and angle 8. Angle 4 and angle 8, they are on the same side of the transversal. However, 4 is inside of the parallel lines, whereas 8 is on the outside of the parallel lines. So we know that they're not same side interior, same side exterior. So that tells you these have to be corresponding angles. So if you get same side, but they're not on the interior and they're not both on the exterior, then they are definitely going to be your corresponding angles. The thing about corresponding angles, we have the C's. The corresponding angles are congruent. This tells us the measure of angle 1 is equal to the measure of angle 5. We also know the measure of angle 4 is equal to the measure of angle 8. These are going to become important with today's lesson, knowing what is congruent and what is supplementary. The last thing we covered were vertical angles, but I feel pretty confident that you know the vertical angles are congruent. And I can use the same slide. Angle 1 and angle 4, they are vertical angles and they are congruent. 5 and 8, they are vertical angles, they are congruent. We also have some other vertical angles that aren't shown here. I think that's 2 and 3, and then 6 and 7. Now I want you to look at your assignment, and this is where I really want you to use your highlighter. After helping somebody yesterday after school, I thought I could have done a better job, and so this is what I want to make sure you have a chance to understand how to do these problems. So I'm going to give you some helpful hints. You should have your highlighter out, and you should have assignment 4-1. It's asking you to determine if these are corresponding alternate interior, alternate exterior, same side interior, same side exterior, or vertical angles. And then it's asking you to circle whether or not they are congruent or supplementary. So I'm actually missing that on here. You have SUPP or CONG. So here's your helpful hint. Take your highlighter on every single one of the problems. You're going to highlight the transversal. So the transversal is the one line that goes through your two parallel lines. So here's number one, transversal is highlighted. Number two, we're going to highlight the transversal. Number three, we highlight the transversal. Number four, we're highlighting the transversal. Number five, again, highlighting the transversal, the line going through both parallel lines. Number six, highlighting that transversal. Let's go back to number one. Looking at number one, we have highlighted the transversal. I'm going to label that line T. And so now let's look at our two angles that are given, angle Y and angle X. Notice that they are on the same side of the transversal. So that on the same side of the transversal, we're going to check, are they the same side interior or same side exterior? Well, when I look at my interior, I notice, hey, Y is on the outside, X is on the inside. That tells me it's not same side interior, it's not same side exterior. So the only thing it can be then is the corresponding angles. Because they're on the same side, but they're not interior or exterior. And in what we just went over, corresponding angles are congruent. But look at number two. Number two, now I see my angle Y and my angle X. Notice they are not on the same side. That means they're on the alternate side. And if they're on the alternate side, then let's see, are they alternate interior, alternate exterior? So I'm going to put a little box around my interior, what's inside the two parallel lines. And now we can see that, oh no, those angles are outside of that box. So that means they are alternating exterior. So we're going to put an AE here. And since it is not an S, then that tells us that they must be congruent. Because only same side interior and same side exterior are the ones that are supplementary. Okay, I'm going to skip the rest of them, 3, 4, 5, and 6, because using my method of highlighting the transversal, which is already highlighted, then notice the location of your two angles. You can then pick out if they're on the same side, then are they same side interior or exterior? And if they're not both interior or both exterior, you know they're corresponding. So I want you to look at page, or the second half of your assignment, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, this one is a little more tricky. So we are going to highlight the transversal. Remember, your transversal has to go through two lines, but our key here is that we are looking at the angles X and Y always. So I want the transversal that hits both the X's and the Y's. And if I'm looking for the transversal that hits both the X's and the Y's, it's going to be the first one that we come to. Transversal, it's hitting both the X and the Y axis. Okay, the other thing I want you to do now is, because we have a lot of extra lines here, we're also going to highlight the lines that are parallel. The lines that make up the angles. So for my angle Y, the other line that makes it up is this line across the top of the Y. For the X, here's my angle X. The other line that makes up is the one that's right below the X. So now we have our two lines and we have the transversal. Now let's look at where the angles are. Here's angle Y, here's angle X. Notice I forgot to label my transversal. They're on alternating sides of the transversal. So they're alternating sides. That means I'm definitely going to have a congruent angle. Now I got to see, are they alternating inside of my parallel lines or outside my parallel lines? So let's look. If I put a little box between my parallel lines, you will see that those angles are inside the box. So this is alternating interior angles, and alternating interior angles are congruent. Look at number 8. We have to figure out what our transversal is. So again, we want to pick the line that is connected to both angle X and angle Y. A line that connects to both of them. Here's angle X and angle Y connected. Now we need the two lines that transversal intersects. It is going to make up the angle Y. So here's my angle Y. Here's the line that makes up the rest of that angle. Here's angle X. Here's the line that makes up that angle. So now here are my two parallel lines that are cut by the transversal. You can now look to see where the angles are in relationship to the two lines. Notice these are on opposite sides of the transversal or alternating sides of the transversal. So that's part of it. You're going to come up with the rest. Number 9, start off with the transversal. This one's a little bit more tricky. So the key is we want to find the transversal that is going to intersect the two parallel lines. So maybe this one is easier to see the parallel lines. So here's a parallel line, and here's a parallel line. Remember our transversal, we want it to cut the parallel lines. So now I'm going to look at the transversal that touches both angles. It'll be the one going up and down here. Just to show you, if I look at this one that I'm highlighting green, notice that is not connected to angle X or angle Y. And so that's why that one is not chosen as the transversal. Now, based upon what we have here, you'll see these are, I'm going to give you a hint, they're not alternated interior because the X is on the outside, Y is on the inside. And you can also see they're not alternating exterior. So there is another set of angles that we are dealing with that you can answer that question. Okay, number 10, let's go ahead and highlight our transversal. We see the only line cutting through two others, or at least two others, is the one that's going up and down because it's with the X and the Y. And now we're going to highlight our two parallel lines. Here's the one for the X, and here's the one for the Y. So now that you've highlighted, you can look at your angles and determine what type of angles you're dealing with. Number 11 and 12, they are review problems. Draw your picture for the B is between A and C, label it, and then solve. 12, I will give you a helpful hint. Whenever you see two letters together, that means you're looking for a length, okay? And if you're looking for a length between 2 points, you are going to use the distance formula. Okay, so now you should be able to complete your assignment 4-1. Some of you may have already completed as we went along. Let's look at today's topic. I want you to turn to topic 4-2. You're going to use your highlighter some more. So make sure you keep it out. And we are doing more parallel lines. Basically, we're doing what we learned yesterday and then how can we apply it. These are not in your notes. This is just for you to see a couple things. Compared to two figures, we have figure number 1 and figure number 2. So what's the same about them? You will see they do have a transversal because that's the line that's cut in between two lines. However, what we do notice about figure 1 is that we have two parallel lines, and I know they're parallel because of the little symbol here. If we look at figure 2, we can see these lines are not parallel because eventually if I continue to go, they will cross, and so they are not parallel. Looking at the same figure, now we're going to compare. Let's look at angles 1 and 5. So remember, we still have transversal, and now we're looking at, here's our parallel lines, and we're going to look at angle 1 and angle 5. Again, second picture, not parallel, angle 1 and angle 5. And even just looking at them, you can kind of see in our figure 2 that angle 1 and angle 5 do not look like they are equal to each other. However, we know now angle 1 and angle 5, they're on the same side of the transversal. One's on the outside, one's on the inside. So these are our corresponding angles. And what we found out from corresponding angles is that they are congruent. So these angles are congruent, these angle measures are congruent, whereas the angle measure for 1, if I was to match it up, you will see it is not the same as the angle measure for 5. So the important thing is they must have congruent lines in order to have corresponding angles to be congruent, and for same side exterior and interior to be supplementary. All those things we talked about yesterday. So now let's fill in our notes. What do we know? We have alternate interior, alternate exterior, same side interior, same side exterior, corresponding, and vertical. So which type of angles are congruent, and then which ones are supplementary? Yesterday we talked about, and today I reminded you, if it has S's, then they are supplementary. So our supplementary are the same side interior angles, and you will see me now put SSI, and also same side exterior angles, which you will now see me using SSE. That means all my other ones are congruent. So alternate interior angles, notice I'm using ALT for alt, INT for interior. Alternate exterior, so ALT for alt, exterior EXT. Corresponding, we know are congruent because of the C, so corresponding I use CORR, and then vertical, I'll go ahead and write that out. Vertical angles are also congruent. There are kissing ones. They want to match up in order to get the perfect kiss. Now that we know this information, how can we apply it? So again, more review. Using the figure below, we're going to identify each angle pair and then tell whether they are congruent or supplementary. So I'm going to start off with my highlighter and highlight my transversal. It's the one line that's intersecting the two parallel lines. And now we're going to look at angle 1 and angle 5. So here's angle 1 and here's angle 5. Right off the bat, we notice they are on alternate sides of the transversal. I'm going to draw my little box in between the two parallel lines. They are outside the box, so that means they are alternating because they are outside. I'm sorry, because they're on opposite sides of the transversal, and it is exterior because they are outside, but we know alternate exterior angles are congruent. Looking at angle 2 and angle 3. Here's angle 2, here's angle 3. So I'm noticing they are on the same side. But now I have to figure out, are they same side interior, exterior? Well, they are both inside the parallel lines. So this means that they are same side interior. And if they're same side, that means they're supplementary. When you're doing same side, you must say whether or not they are interior, exterior. Okay, example 2. Now we're going to use this information. We have L and M are parallel. We're going to find the measure of each. So we do have two parallel lines. That means, hey, this line going up and down, that's the transversal. Let's highlight it. And we're going to label it with the letter T. So that's our transversal. Let's look at measure of angle 3. And we are going to compare that to the measure of angle 5. They tell us that the measure of angle 3 is 115. Look at angle 3 and angle 5. Notice that angle 3 and angle 5, these are alternate because they are on the opposite sides of the transversal, and they are interior angles because they are inside the parallel line. So let me draw my little box. I keep forgetting to draw that. So alternate interior angles, that means alternate interior angles are congruent. So the measure of angle 5 has to be the same as the measure of angle 3, and we get 115. Now when we do part B and C, they are totally different problems. So what we did in part A, we're going to now ignore, and now we're going to look at part B. So if you need to, cross out that 115. Now I'm looking at measure of angle 1, and I'm looking at measure of angle 7. It's what we're comparing to. So if we look at 1 and 7, we see that we are on opposite sides of the transversal. And we also see that they are outside the parallel lines. So this is alternate exterior angles. And we know that they are congruent. So that means the measure of angle 7 has to be the same as the measure of angle 1. So the measure of angle 7 is 130. Now C, again, total different problem. C, we're looking at the measure of angle 8, and we're comparing that to the measure of angle 3. Let me use my highlighter to show that even more. Here's 3, and here's 8. Again, I'm noticing they are on the alternate sides of the transversal. Okay, and it's telling me the measure of angle 8 is 47 degrees. So I have alternate sides of the transversal, but this one's a little more tricky because notice 3 is inside the box, but 8 is outside the box. So we can't just do like we did on the previous ones and use one of our definitions right off the bat. But what you can do is we can use those definitions that we do know, because if the measure of angle 8 is 47, I have other angles that are also 47 based upon all these things I know. So I'm changing colors. So let's see. Measure of angle 8 is 47. Hey, angle 6 is a vertical angle. And if they're vertical angles, that means it's 47 also. And then I can go and say, well, angle 6, well, its corresponding angle to angle 6 is angle 2. So that means angle 2 is 47. And that means if 2 is 47, it has a vertical angle of 4. So that means angle 4 is 47. I'm still trying to figure out, though, what is the measure of angle 3. So let's look. Here's 4 and 3. We haven't talked about this in a while, but 4 and 3, some of you might recognize, make a linear pair. And what do I know about linear pairs? We know that linear pairs are supplementary. If you did not recognize that, look at 3 and 6. Angles 3 and 6. Angle 3 and 6 are same side interior angles. So measure of angle 3 and angle 6 are same side interior. And if they are same side, that means they are supplementary. So I have several different things. Linear pairs means that measure of angle 3 and angle 4 add up to be 180. So if they add up to be 180, that's 47 plus the measure of angle 3, I don't know what it is 180. If I use same side interior angles, then I know that adding angles 6 and 3 together will give me 180. Well, angle 6 is also 47, so I'm still going to end up with the exact same equation. Now I can solve for the measure of angle 3. I want this measure of angle 3 by itself, so we are going to subtract 47 from both sides. Cancels out. We're left with the measure of angle 3, and then 180 minus 47 is 133 degrees. So using all those properties, we were able to find out what the measure of angle 3 is. You are now going to have about 15 minutes of class time left. You are to complete assignment 4-1 if you didn't do so. The substitute is going to pass out assignment 4-2, and you are to complete that one. We will check both of them tomorrow. You will get stamps tomorrow. Please return the highlighters to the bucket on the back table before you leave. I will see y'all on Friday.